Hi guys, so I am on my way to Raleigh, and I just wanted to tell you what's going on in our ministry. I haven't been on for a couple of weeks. Number one, we had a super chill Sunday night a couple of weeks ago, and we only had 14 kids, and it was time change weekend, so everybody was just done, right? I preached the 2 morning services because I feel like as a youth pastor, that's what we get. We get the secondhand services sometimes, and that just so happens to be time change, and my pastor knows I don't do well in the mornings, and he gave me time change weekend to preach 2 services. And I mean, it went great, but by the time youth came around, I was done. I was out. And so instead of doing big group games and all that kind of stuff, we just chilled and we talked about who Jesus was, and who he was as a person. And we had some awesome conversation because one of our 8th graders actually said, well, I mean, what if Mary really wasn't a virgin, right? And so we had to kind of unpack some of that, because I truly believe that if you don't have doubts, or you don't let your students have doubts, then their faith can't grow. And that's a huge deal to me. I want them to grow in their faith like never before. And so if we can do that by allowing them to have doubts, to make it so that it's okay to doubt, then I think we've done our job, because then they can come back and say, I've worked through this in my faith, and I still believe that God is God, and that Jesus is who he says he is. So we kind of unpacked that a little bit, and that wasn't the lesson. Our lesson was about real Jesus versus church Jesus, but I felt like, hey, let's just sit and let's unpack this, because this is something that a lot of us struggle with, which a lot of us, if we're honest, can say there have been times that we have doubted that God is who he says he is, and will do what he says he will do. And so we started to unpack that. And I am so excited, because it proves that our students are thinking. It's not just whatever we say goes. And that is my thing, man. It shouldn't be their parents' faith, it shouldn't be our faith, it should be their faith. And so if they are asking those questions, well, what if Mary wasn't really a virgin? Well, then Joseph probably would have had her stoned, because being with who she was and her personality, he believed her. He because of who she was, and yeah, the angel had to come to solidify that, but at the same time, with who she was, he was going to divorce her quietly. And so we talked about that, and about how he wouldn't, if her personality had been one of a liar, he would not have said, you know what, I'm just going to divorce her quietly. And then the angel came, and it was yes, this is a fact. God is going to do something amazing in and through her, through this baby that God has used, that God has conceived. And so we ended up talking about that most of the time, instead of, what I had planned. But that's okay. I'm not one of those that has to stick to the script, because they need to know that I read my Bible all the time, right? That I have answers for their questions, and sometimes we have to say, oh, I don't really know the answer, but let me get back to you on that, right? The cool thing was, my husband just busted it out. He was sitting beside us, because we were having a super chill night, so he was sitting beside me, and he said, okay, let's unpack this a little bit, and he took the lead. And my husband is an introvert. Yeah, he's a worship leader, but at the same time, he's an introvert. He doesn't normally speak out, and so for them to hear it from him was also an amazing thing because he also, they know he reads his Bible. Like, it's not just something that like we say we do, it's something that we actually do. And the Bible impacts our life. And so it was a big deal. And so, yeah. And then last weekend, we didn't have youth because I was on my way to Youth Pastor Summit, and my husband was like, I'm not going to be the only person in the room with 35 kids. Like, not going to happen, right? So we, because we need volunteers, and the people that we've talked to about being volunteers, like, they'll come one week and then they're like, it's a little too much, right? Because you can do children's ministry and it not be too much, but when you step into a room full of 6th through 12th graders who are off the chain, who are ridiculous some nights, who, when we play some games, like they break chairs, it's totally different, right? So we did play a game the weekend before. We played Dead Cat, which is on DYM. You can download it. It's a super fun game, super funny, and they're like, it's whatever, like, this is ridiculous. This is the dumbest game I've ever played. But they had fun doing it, and they were like arguing with one another, and it was super amazing. It was really fun. And then, we got into Church Jesus versus Real Jesus. And then got into doubt. But yeah, so then last week we didn't have it because I was at Youth Pastor Summit, and Youth Pastor Summit was amazing. And God is continually teaching me through the conferences that I've been to. Like, we had a women's conference not too long ago, and they talked about Daniel, and then a couple of times during the weekend, something that has been in my brain for the last, I guess, month and a half has been, and if not, he is still good. My husband and I are in the adoption process. I don't ovulate, so we can't have children naturally. But in my life, adoption has been at the forefront of my brain. For my whole life, I've said, I don't want to go through childbirth. Like, that just does not seem fun to me. Like, the whole being pregnant thing, like, some people think it's the most amazing thing ever. Like, it's not something that I've ever wanted to do. But my dad was adopted. My aunt was adopted. My cousin has adopted a little girl from China. And so when, instead of doing in vitro and paying all that money, we said, hey, we're going to save our money and we're going to go straight adoption. Well, in the last year, it has been crazy. It's been really hard. We have had times where we thought we were going to bring home a baby, and the birth mom decided to go a different route. And it felt almost like a miscarriage. We have a car seat carrier in our closet. We have a stroller in our closet. We have a baby bed in our office. Like, some of you have watched some of the shows from before and you see our office, but what you don't see is what's in front of me, and there is a non-put together baby bed with a mattress and the whole 9 yards. And so whenever God decides to bless us, we are ready. But at the same time, God has been reminding me, and if he doesn't, he is still good. And at Youth Pastor Summit, Tedeschi, who is a Christian rapper, if you don't know, he busted it out and was like, listen, like, we lost our second son. And I had to come to terms with the fact that God was God and he is still good, even though this time of life is crap. And that is been where I am, man. Like, even if God decides that we are not to be parents, like, God is still good. He's the same God that was there on my graduation day from college. He's the same God that was there on our wedding day. He's the same God that was there when FSU won the football national championship in 2014. Like, he was there. And that God that is still that God that was there on those good days of our lives is still good today. And that is one of those things that, even though sometimes we are heartbroken, those nights that we cry ourselves to sleep, those nights, God is fighting for us, and He is still God, and He is still good, and He's not Santa. Like, we can't just say, here's my wish list. We can't say, God, I've been faithful through all of this. Now it's your turn to be faithful to me. Because in the end, He's God and we are not. He is not going to give us everything that we think we want. He is going to give us the things that give Him glory in the end. And yeah, an adoption would give Him glory, especially at this time in our lives when we feel like that it's not going to happen. That would totally give Him glory. And yeah, we are believing that it's going to happen, but if not, God is still God and God is still good. And we might have to give up those things that we have wanted. We have on our roll 36 kids. And those 36 kids we see within a month's time. It might be at a ball game. It might be at youth group. But it doesn't matter, because those are kids that we are pouring into. And we are not always the best at pouring into them, because it's just two of us, right? But at the same time, those are the ones that God right now has given us to shepherd. I had a kid last week before I left for Youth Pastor Summit. I was at a baseball game, and he said, I'm not going to give you a hug out here. And I said, since when do we hug? Like, we don't. I'm so confused. He said, we're going to make it a new thing. I said, okay. Okay, well, not make it a new thing, because I'm not going to hug some random boy at a baseball game. Like, that's just not who I am. And later on, he came up to me. He said, Ariel, I just want you to know I'm not going to use your name anymore. I said, okay, that's cool. What you going to call me? Because I really like my name. My parents might spell it kind of a little funky, but, you know. And he said, you going to be my church mama. And so as Tedeschi was talking, and as these things have been going through my brain of, and if not, He is still good, church mama has been popping in my head, because that is who I am. I am the church mama. I might be the full-time youth and children's pastor, but I am some of these kids' church mama. When they think about going home and smoking weed, because this kid does, he will remember what my church mama said. He will know that that his church mama is not going to look highly on him for doing that. That church mama is there. Church mama is gonna be there. Church mama isn't gonna leave him by the side of the road. Church mama expects the best from him. And that's one example of where God is using us to be parents in a time where we so want to be parents of a little one, and my husband wants to coach Little League, and you know, I cheered, and so if we got a little girl, I would be one of those cheer parents. I'm not gonna lie, like, that was cute, but you need to do it right, you know what I'm saying? My husband, if we got a little boy, wants to coach football, you know, there are those things in our lives that say this is who we are. But at the same time, we are able and we are willing to come alongside kids and be their church mama and daddy. We are able to do those things. And so, and if not, He is still good. Like, that has been in my brain, like I said, for the last probably month and a half, 2 months. And if not, He is still good. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I thought once I came to terms with that God was gonna bless us right away. And when that women's conference happened and my husband and I were talking in the car, because we're always in the car, I said, I really feel like, and if not, he is still good. And my husband said, that's good, Ariel. And I said, well, that's where I am. And my husband said, well, I totally agree, And then the next week, it was, hey, Ariel, we put your book out to so-and-so, like, we really think you fit the profile. And the thing is, we didn't get it. We weren't chosen for that kid, for that baby. And I thought, God, I've already come to terms with this, and then you're gonna let another one pass us by. It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. Like, I'm reading a book called Barren Among the Fruitful. And in it, the writer writes that faithfulness to God does not mean that a mother will conceive. That God would give us a baby, right? Faithfulness to God means in the end, we are going to see him face to face. That is our reward. Our reward is not a child. Our reward is seeing God face to face. And guys and girls, that is what we should be focused on. Faithfulness does not mean that we're going to get everything that we want. Faithfulness means that we are going to see God face to face in the end. So I hope this challenged you. We're going to finish up Church Jesus versus Real Jesus this week, and I was gonna do all of these different things, and I don't know where God's gonna end up putting our Sunday night lesson. Because I wanted to flip a couple tables. I've done that before in the past, and talked about how, Jesus wasn't always like the person that we think he was. Because we have this mindset that he was a pansy, that he was not who he says he had all these different emotions throughout the New Testament, and so many times we just focus on the fact that he loved everyone, which, he did, but at the same time, he drove out money changers from the church with a freaking whip, right? And so I've been wanting to teach that, but at the same time, I almost feel like our kids need to hear that God is God, and he's not going to give us everything that we want. I don't know. I'm still dealing with it. I don't know where I'm going to go with it. But we do need to talk about the crucifixion and the resurrection and what that means for our life. So many times our kids and our youth, they actually think that there was 3 people that died on crosses and that's it. That it was not like this huge thing in history where all these people would be lined up on the sides of the road. But that's reality. But instead, he rose. And honestly, I want to be that person that walked hand in hand, faithful to God through it all. And so, I don't know where this Sunday's lesson is gonna be. Is gonna go. But I do know that God is still God, and he is still good, even though he doesn't do everything that we want him to do when we want him to do it, because he's not Santa. He's God.